This is my second attempt for this video because my last submission was just something happened with the process. It only recorded 13 seconds, but hopefully we can get an extension on that. If not, that's very unfortunate. But yeah, second attempt. This is biodiesel, which is my chosen biofuel. So just a quick intro. Biodiesel is a biofuel that is created from cooking vegetable oils, and it's a mixture of fats, animal fats, and other greases, which is used currently in vehicles across the globe. Biodiesel is one of the more common biofuels. It's seen as a good alternative to fossil fuels due to its non-toxic and biodegradable characteristics. It's proved to be a hopeful substitute for regular petroleum diesel. It's also important to note that biodiesel and renewable, quote unquote, green diesel are not the same thing, and they are processed very differently. So agriculture and how it's grown and cultivated. So the majority of the plants that are used in this biofuel are soybeans, palm, and rapeseed for the oil. The US mainly uses soybean, while European nations use rapeseed, but palm oil is very common as well. Just to go back, this is not all just vegetable oils. It's a mixture of restaurant greases and excess restaurant greases and animal fats. It's all mixed together. So how is it produced? The first step involves cultivating the plants mentioned in the previous slide. And it's made possible obviously by the process of photosynthesis. And although many biofuels use fermentation to change biomass into whatever biomass they're using into ethanol, biodiesel uses the chemical process of transesterification. And this process basically removes the glycerin from the oil and moves to byproducts, obviously the glycerin, which is used in many products, cosmetics, soap, and just many preservatives and many things, and methyl esters, which is biodiesel. And right here, this shows this process right in the bottom left corner. And I'll get to this in the next couple of slides. So the developmental status of this fuel is it is readily available and runs diesel engines of vehicles all across the US. And it's quoted at a rate of almost 5% or less into almost all diesel fuel sold in the US. And so this is important to know that biofuel is not normally used in its pure form, and it's often blended into diesel fuels. And in the US, around 2.6 billion gallons were produced in 2010. So this fuel is already on the market. It's been used. It's been on here if you didn't know it, but yeah, it's readily available. The impact on the carbon footprint, being that it's a non-toxic, clean-burning biofuel that's domestically produced, and it is shown to provide a renewable option to petroleum, and it's proven to also reduce the life cycle emissions because the production of biodiesel, the actual growing of the plants that we talked about earlier, offsets to an extent how much CO2 is released during total combustion. So if we go back to this slide right here, we can see the oil of the crops right here in the harvested crude vegetable oil, refined oil, alcohol, and then biodiesel, which when combusted obviously is going to release CO2, but this CO2 is already driving the source of with photosynthesis with oil crops right here. And this is just for on an average tank of gas, approximately 20% of that tank that we just labeled as diesel is actually biodiesel. The economic impact. The biofuel industry in the US has a market value of almost $140 billion, and this was listed in 2020. The biodiesel sector alone creates nearly 60,000 jobs and generates billions in GDP. This isn't even American jobs right here, because this picture, it's a Hungarian biodiesel plant. I just thought it was interesting. And efforts to communicate the use of biofuels in general. So obviously efforts against global warming and climate change are always being advertised, but climate change has become more severe. Industries such as biofuel and alternative forms of energy have grown exponentially. Biodiesel, this growth has been described to be careful and deliberate, and this has been a successful approach because it's proved successful as 70% of all vehicles that are produced today are able to take and run on biodiesel without any issue. It's upheld to safety, performance, and environmental standards of the American Society for Testing Materials. And this is a government which is consisted of other smaller government subcommittees fuel producers, engine manufacturers, and it's proven to be the highest standard for a biofuel to be certified. And this SDDM standard are often adopted by countries worldwide because it's very reputable. So I would say that the efforts to communicate the biofuel to the general public, it's obviously accessible and it's proven to work in its state. So my analysis of like the current situation and possible recommendations if funding was not an issue. So the process of converting crops into usable energy like biodiesel can lead to issues such as higher food prices, overconsumption, and possible deforestation, all of which are obviously not ideal scenarios and are counterproductive to what is trying to be achieved by the use and development of biofuels, which is to take care of our environment and the world that we live in, make sure we can run on renewable energy. So obviously many things can be fixed if funding wasn't an issue, and it's important to note that most of the cost comes from research and development for actually producing these biofuels more efficiently. So I think it'd be beneficial to look into like how effective we can produce biofuels and like do this research, because that's what costs the most, and like how we can produce biofuels has little interference with the environment, such as using less water, less fertilizer, maybe better crop selection, so we can maximize the benefits that we're trying to get out of while using biofuels. These are my sources that like certain like facts that I've listed and like quotes, my slides, and for my images.